Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Rangers get shut out again at home, this time losing by a score of 1-0 to the Washington Capitals. A lot different than the home opener, where that was just a very poor game played by the Rangers against the Penguins, one that was kind of an inexcusable effort on their part. This is a game the Rangers played pretty well, and really were the better team for the majority of the game. However, the Capitals were the team that scored the goal. It was a goal by Anthony Beauvillier in the second period. Charlie Lindgren was very, very good for Washington, the brother of Ryan Lindgren. And Charlie Lindgren's had success against the Rangers before in the regular season. Rangers did fairly well against Charlie Lindgren in that first round playoff series in 2024. But Lindgren was great. And so, you know, I don't want to come down too hard on the Rangers because of the fact that, hey, like they did play a pretty solid game. But I think there are some things that we can discuss, sort of bigger picture things, and some things that are more individual based. Um, but before we get into that, just some things that were expected. Jonathan Quick was in net, figured that'd be the case, and he was good. I mean, look, wasn't tested crazy, but the one goal he allowed, I didn't think that was really his fault. Made 20 saves on 21 shots. And then as far as the skaters were concerned, Carson Soucy was out, was placed on IR, meaning he'll be out at least a week. I say more than that. Again, it didn't look very good. Looked like he might have sustained a concussion. So Matthew Robertson inserted into the lineup. Connor Mackey called up. So Connor Mackey was the defensive healthy scratch. And for the most part, it was Matthew Robertson just taking the Soucy spot next to Will Borgen. There were times, but I'd say briefly, where they would have Schneider on the left side with Borgen, but that wasn't too common. But yeah, like Matthew Robertson played a decent amount more than Urho Valkanainen. I mean, Robertson had 5 more shifts, played about 4 more minutes. So, I mean, again, just to the point that, and I said it before again, and I'm not like a big anti-Valkanainen guy, but and at the same time, I wouldn't say that Matthew Robertson is some amazing player, but if and when Soucy comes back, don't be totally shocked if a Matthew Robertson was in there instead of a Valkanainen. But it's kind of a non-factor at this point because of the fact that, again, Soucy's going to be out, I would say, for a little bit of time here. And so, again, you have Vincent Trocheck getting hurt, and he's going to be out for some time. And now Carson Soucy, not great on the health front. And that's kind of the funny thing, is that as poor as, like, last year felt for the Rangers, and correct me if I'm wrong, at least for, like, the large stretch of time when they were basically in the race, like the Rangers were relatively healthy, right? Not to say that like an Adam Edstrom didn't get hurt. And again, I apologize if I'm forgetting a big one, but like they've actually been kind of fortunate in the last few years as far as staying healthy, but so far a little bit shaky on that end. As far as the forwards were concerned, they went with Johnny Brodzinski over Juuso Parssinen. And essentially it was a 1-for-1 switch where Brodzinski was on that line, Noah Laba and Taylor Radish. And, again, keeping in mind that Brodzinski obviously, hadn't played in game action a little bit of time here. Didn't really think Brodzinski did a whole lot. Didn't play a whole lot either. And it's not as if Parssinen was unbelievable, but again, just it's a kind of a fluid evaluation. And I feel like we'll see. We'll see. But I don't know if either of them distinguish themselves. But even to me, Taylor Radish is a guy that, like, I have said he, in some ways, deserves to be in that sort of rotation of healthy scratches as well. But, and I think let's talk about some of the things that were frustrating for me, and then we'll get into the game. Look, there's not going to be a whole lot in terms of the specifics, right? There was only 1 goal scored, but it is Artemi Panarin and JT Miller. And it's a little bit different for both of them, but also somewhat similar. And also, and the power play as well. Like this Ranger team, it seems as if their identity under Mike Sullivan is going to be like good structure, playing a smarter game, playing a more north-south style game, which is all well and good. And some of the personnel that works for, some of it doesn't. And I'm fine with that being their identity. It's been successful at times, but the Ranger talent is decreasing as we go on here. And so it sucks you can't have it both ways. And look, if we're being completely like, honest, maybe there have been times when the Rangers had the offense and the defense. Like, there have been where it's all kind of gone together, but it feels like naturally, you know, maybe in, like, let's say the more like recency, like the last 4 or 5 years, part of the Quinn era, Gallant, um, Laviolette, where you have a really good power play. You do have a lot of high end skill, but with that comes a lot of maybe, and again, maybe I'm more so speaking like from last year, like just really bad defense in terms of team defense, where teams are getting grade A chances against. It's really early, but 4 games in, done a nice job as far as not giving up, you know, these unbelievable opportunities for the opposition. And again, short sample size. But it seems like that's what they're preaching. And in some ways, I think that's coming through. However, the concern is goal scoring, right? And I would say that the Tortorella years where Mike Sullivan was an assistant. So I think maybe that's influencing me a little bit. Like, was that sort of thing where they were a team that, I mean, that team had less talent, like, but they really were very, very sound structurally defensively. Obviously helps have Lundqvist, but just as well, again, it's more of a broad comparison here, but I just think goal scoring could be an issue for this team. And all said, look, this is a game that the Rangers played well. Like the Rangers have been on the other end of this many times, and maybe again, where like they got absolutely outplayed, but due to maybe a little bit more talent, the Rangers were able to, whether it was Shesterkin playing well or whatever the case was, they get the win. This is a little bit of an unfamiliar feeling where it's like the Rangers outshoot Washington 35-21, really were the better team, but come out with the 1-0 loss. And that brings me back to Panarin and JT Miller. And again, I've said, I know that they were dealing with different types of injuries and haven't been playing much, right? So, but that only goes so far. That only goes so far. Like we're on game 4 now. That excuse can be used maybe just a little bit longer, but not a whole lot. And I want more from them. Now, I feel like people might disagree with me on JT Miller, but I'm still going to stick to it. Like that line did a nice job from a possession standpoint, like JT Miller centering Cooley and Connor Sherry, which I'm going to go back to Sherry. Alex Faust pronounced it Sherry. I'm going to go with that again. Subject to change, but that's what we're going to go with, not Sherry. And I feel as if that line, like it certainly was not bad. Like it really did control territorial play. But I just feel like with JT, and he very well might be dealing with an injury. Like he probably is. But if that is the case, and I know that Trocheck's already out, I get it. But if he is injured, hey, don't play. Seriously. Don't try to be a hero this early in the season because you are in some ways hurting the team. If he is in fact injured, like, and I don't know the severity of it, right? So it's hard for me to fully make that judgment. But I just feel like with him, there's more to be had there, right? At least on like, again, the skill side of things, if nothing else, and a little bit on the grinding side, a little bit on like the, getting in the battles and, keeping pucks in and being strong on the boards. Like I haven't seen enough from Miller and I want to see a little bit more from him. But then Panarin, and I think that sentiment might be more of agreeing with me on the Panarin front. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like his style of play is just different than I think what Mike Sullivan's going for, which isn't really a surprise. But you need a lot more from him, certainly right now. You don't have that much goal scoring on this team. And Panarin really needs to produce, whether it's on the power play or even strength. Because at least with Zibanejad, like he's had some great. It's again the stat sheet for him is misleading. It looks a lot, and again he's actually -1 in this game too. So he's 4 games in with 1 goal, 1 point, -2, but it doesn't tell the story. Like I think that he's bought in to the system, so I'm not going to give him flack. Mika is in some ways low hanging fruit, but I'm not going to go there. Like he has done a nice job so far. Is he the player he was 3-4 years ago? No, he's not. But again, like I like what I'm seeing just from at least an effort standpoint and trying to get in there and making some plays. Panarin, again, like Panarin just hasn't looked good. And again, I know it's only 4 games in, right? Like I get that too. But I think there is so much dependence on those top guys to perform on this team. And I just don't know if the Rangers are going to have enough of that high-end skill. I just don't, right? Because like I like a lot that Carrick with with Edstrom Rempe line. I like it a lot. Like, I think that that's an effective line, but you can't depend on them for the goal scoring. Sure, hopefully they can chip in. They did, against the Penguins in Pittsburgh with a couple of goals, but um, and it's kind of as I predicted. And again, this is going to be more of sort of a big picture analysis episode. But we'll go into some of the quicker stuff in game. But um, that third line, quote unquote, centered by Lava, it's really more of a fourth line. It just kind of putting all of it's. They feel as if they have these lines set, and Sherry ends up moving up to the top six. Sherry has had a pretty big role for better or worse. And it's probably not ideal, right? If we're being honest with ourselves, like it is like, look, he played close to 60 minutes of action. Like they are using him. And again, remember, this is a guy that was in the AHL basically all of last season. I'm just saying, like Connor Sherry has not been, although like when I watch him, like he's been all right. He hasn't been terrible. Like would I kind of rather that maybe be a Brett Berard, for example, getting that chance? Probably. But I digress. But I don't know. I kind of wish that Lava was playing with different players. Like I don't love that he ends up kind of just with the rest of the guys. Or Radish in most cases. It was Sherry. Parson for one game, Brazinski another. I guess what I'm saying is I definitely do want to keep that Carrick line. I do like the three of them together, but I think that they need to be open to the idea of mixing things up. Really, honestly, between the other three lines, like. That's what I would try to do. I don't know. Like Panarin's the manager at Lafreniere. I don't think that's gonna be the fit. It just I know it's kind of an easy type solution, but I might go a different route. And if it means the manager going back to wing and Laba look, I don't know if he's ready for it, but Laba maybe just being, a second line center again. Like I say that somewhat gently, but I'm open to change there. I definitely am, because I just don't like that kind of third/fourth line that Laba is centering. It's not on him, but it's not a great mix. But anyway, I need a lot more from Panarin and JT Miller for sure, power play and otherwise. But this was a game where the Caps actually were the better team for, let's call it maybe the first half of the first period. Like the Caps were better, but the Rangers really, really turned it on with about, I don't know, 10 to 12 minutes left in that first. Rangers end up out shooting the Caps 13-9 in that first period. And then remember here, Caps were also coming off of a road win the night before. They win against the Islanders, Rangers win against the Penguins. So a somewhat similar, even situation. But the Rangers really, peppered Charlie Lindgren. I'd say Zibanejad had some of the best chances in this game. That's been the case, but he's been, he had a really great opportunity in the second period, I think on a 2-on-1 chance where Lindgren makes a great glove save. He has had the Rangers number in the regular season. There's no doubt about it. And that was the case again. And in some ways for him, hey, it's, not, avenging Ryan Lindgren, but it is funny, this was either Charlie Lindgren's first or second, I want to say first game post Ryan Lindgren being on the Rangers. But he did well against the Rangers even then too. But yeah, overall, a good first period by the Rangers, and it got better. Second period was good too. Rangers outshoot the Capitals 13-5. However, the Caps do get their one goal, and it was Anthony Beauvillier. And, you want to talk about Ranger killers and Charlie Lindgren. Anthony Beauvillier as well. He had a lot of success as an Islander against the Rangers. Beauvillier's first goal of the season from Ovechkin and Chisholm, not Jazz Chisholm, Declan Chisholm. But this is a play, again, kind of an innocent enough looking play for the Caps. And, Ovechkin just puts it on the tape of Beauvillier. He redirects it in. Do I wish Braden Schneider was maybe a little bit closer towards Beauvillier? Yes, but Schneider has to respect the shot of Ovechkin. So he kind of was sort of in the middle. And that's your goal. And again, I don't think that Jonathan Quick could have done a whole lot either on that too. So Caps go up 1-0 on the Beauvillier goal. And then here's where the Rangers get some of their potential best chances, but don't deliver. Power play. 15-18, Tom Wilson trips Sherry. And this is where the number one unit got most of the action. Good zone time, but not a whole lot of amazing chances. It was okay. It was not great. And then right after that, 17-42, Beauvillier hooks Carrick. This was more of the second unit, and they had some of their struggles, but decent ozone time. And then The second half of that was like the number one unit, which did not look good at all. But the Rangers don't score any back-to-back power plays, down by one, they don't score. So yet again, down 1-0 going to the third, like it was on the home opener, and they don't come back. And I felt like the third period, it was okay. I liked what I saw more in that second half of the first, second period. Again, that third period maybe got a little bit better as time went on, but not a lot of amazing chances. JT Miller does take a penalty at 3:35. He trips Pierre-Luc Dubois, but the Rangers do kill it off. But what's frustrating is, and look, ultimately the Rangers lose 1-0. Last year, to my knowledge, they did not score a single goal on a 6-on-5 situation down by one goal. And they might have been the only team. I think that they were the only team in the league that didn't do that. So it's things like that that I wanted to see differently here. Not to say that, like, I don't know, 6-on-5, it wasn't great, really. I'm looking, it's not like they totally peppered Charlie Lindgren. There were some chances. Will Cooley was the extra guy. Like, it was the 5-man power play unit plus Will Cooley. And the Caps came close to some empty net goals, didn't get it. But yeah, Rangers tried out again at home. And I think they might be approximately the 10th team in NHL history to have been shut out in the first two games at home of a season, and they'll look to, rebound against the Oilers. Like, it's tough. And I just have a concern in terms of the goal scoring. Because let's be honest too, game 2 against the Sabres only had one goal until like 5 minutes left in the third. Now, the Penguin game, of course, they got it done. Goal scoring was there aplenty. But the good news is, at least the last 3 games, the work ethic is there. They're not giving up crazy opportunities. There's a lot of good here. And give credit to Mike Sullivan for that. And I feel like there's a little bit more structure. There's not just players easily entering the zone untouched, odd man opportunities, players open in front. You're not seeing that as much, and it's really early, right? Edmonton next is going to be a great test, obviously, right? Because there's a ton of pace and speed to Edmonton's game that the Rangers got to keep up with. But yeah, like, there is some good here, but there's also frustrations, and you're going to need your top players to perform. That's the way it is. Power play, even strength. But, some good signs as well, but they're going to have to find a way to score goals. So, and injuries are piling up a little bit as well, which is a little bit tough. As far as the lineup next game, expect to see the same defense. I don't foresee Connor Mackey being inserted in. I wouldn't think so. I thought Matthew Robertson did a decent enough job for sure. And then as far as the forwards, like, your guess is as good as mine, right? As far as like whether it's Brodzinski, Parson, like I mentioned, like a Taylor Radish, in my opinion, should be in that conversation as well. But Rangers 2-2, still looking for their first home goal. Hopefully they'll get it against Edmonton. Now, Edmonton, where the Rangers have played 4 games this season, Edmonton's only played 2. They're 1-0-1. Both games played at home. They're coming off of a win against the Canucks. So we'll see. I'm imagining with the way these things work, Edmonton, it's the first of probably a decent road trip on the East Coast is usually how it goes. So, you hope it's one of those things where Edmonton coming off travel, has a little bit of a slow start, but they're going to be tough. I mean, that's, like I said, the competition, is going to get tougher and tougher. And last year, the Rangers didn't do well against playoff type competition. And so, Igor will be back in net. But yeah, this will be the last home game for a little less than a week. They go to Canada and they will take on the Leafs and the Canadiens before coming back home to take on the Minnesota Wild. So, Rangers still looking for that first goal. Charlie Lindgren played a really, really good game. And basically totally stonewalled the New York Rangers. So they dropped to 2-2, and they will yet again try for that home goal as they'll take on the Edmonton Oilers. They come to town, and the New York Rangers are going to try to get that monkey off their back.